You step outside on a brutally hot afternoon, and within minutes, your shirt is soaked through. You feel weak, sluggish, desperate for shade. It feels like your body is failing you. It isn't. What's actually happening on your skin right now is one of the strangest, most powerful survival tools any mammal has ever evolved. And the story of how it got there stretches back millions of years to a version of your ancestors who didn't just tolerate heat, they used it as a weapon. Picture the East African savanna, roughly 2 million years ago. No shade for miles. Ground temperatures hot enough to injure bare skin. Nearly every large mammal out there is built to avoid the midday sun entirely, resting in whatever shade exists, moving only at dawn and dusk when the heat eases. And then there's an early human ancestor, walking, sometimes running, directly through the hottest hours of the day, when almost nothing else dares to move. This wasn't recklessness, it was strategy. And to understand it, you have to start with sweat. A biologist named Nina Jablonski spent much of her career studying exactly how human skin evolved, and one of her central findings concerns something almost every other mammal lacks. Humans have somewhere between 2 and 4 million sweat glands covering nearly the entire surface of the body, a density far beyond what any other primate carries. Most mammals cool themselves through panting, moving air across wet tissue in the mouth and lungs. Humans instead evolved eccrine sweat glands packed across the skin itself, turning the entire body into a cooling surface. This only works, though, if the sweat can actually reach open air and evaporate. And that's where Jablonski's research connects to something else entirely: the disappearance of body hair. Thick fur traps sweat against the skin, exactly the opposite of what a heat-stressed, running animal needs. Jablonski's work suggests that as early humans became increasingly active during the hottest parts of the day, natural selection favored individuals with less body hair because bare, exposed skin lets sweat evaporate freely, and evaporation is what actually cools blood near the surface. Losing fur created a new problem, though. Unprotected skin exposed to intense equatorial sun risks, sunburn, and more seriously, damage to folate, a nutrient essential for reproduction and fetal development. Jablonski's research found that populations living under the most intense sun evolved higher concentrations of melanin, the pigment that darkens skin and absorbs harmful ultraviolet radiation before it can cause that damage. Skin color, in other words, wasn't a cosmetic feature. It was a direct engineering response to living, working, and moving through some of the harshest sunlight on the planet. So now imagine this animal, nearly hairless, densely covered in sweat glands, skin tuned to the local sun. What was all this cooling machinery actually for? A primatologist named Peter Wheeler proposed an answer connected to something even more fundamental about how humans move. Wheeler's research modeled how much direct solar radiation an animal absorbs depending on its posture. A four-legged animal exposes its entire back to the overhead midday sun. A two-legged animal, standing upright, exposes only the top of its head and shoulders, while the rest of the body angles away from direct solar radiation. Wheeler calculated that upright, bipedal posture could reduce solar heat gain by as much as 60%, compared to a similarly sized quadruped standing in the same open sun. Under this model, walking upright wasn't just about freeing the hands, one of the more familiar explanations you've probably heard before. It was also a direct thermal adaptation, a body shape engineered to survive standing in open, shadeless heat that would have driven most other animals into hiding. Put these pieces together: hairless, heavily sweating skin, an upright posture that minimized direct sun exposure, and you get an animal built specifically to remain active during the hours when almost every other large mammal on the savanna had to stop. This is where a third researcher, a biologist named Daniel Lieberman, connects the biology to actual behavior. Lieberman has spent years studying a hunting method called persistence hunting, still practiced today by a small number of traditional hunters in places like the Kalahari. The method is deceptively simple. Instead of using speed or weapons at a distance, hunters chase a single animal, often an antelope or kudu, for hours through the hottest part of the day at a slow, sustainable jogging pace. Most prey animals are dramatically faster than a human over short distances, but they cool themselves primarily through panting, which becomes far less effective once they're forced to run continuously, unable to stop and catch their breath. A human, meanwhile, keeps sweating efficiently while jogging, barely slowing down, hour after hour. Eventually, the prey animal's body temperature climbs to a dangerous level, its muscles fail from heat stress, and it collapses, at which point the hunters simply walk up and finish what pure endurance already accomplished. Lieberman's research argues that this combination, efficient sweating, minimal body hair, upright posture, and remarkable long-distance running endurance, didn't evolve as separate coincidences. They evolved together as one integrated hunting strategy built specifically around exploiting heat that other animals couldn't handle. Your ancestors weren't just surviving the hottest hours of the day. In an important sense, they were hunting inside them, using heat itself as a tool that gave them an advantage no faster, stronger animal could match. Now think about what this means for you. Sweating uncomfortably on a hot afternoon, wishing you were anywhere else. That system soaking through your shirt right now is the same one that once let a slower, weaker, weaponless primate chase down animals many times faster than itself, simply by refusing to stop moving through heat that eventually broke its prey first. Modern life rarely calls on this system the way it evolved to be used. You're not chasing anything across open grassland. You're mostly walking from an air-conditioned building to an air-conditioned car. But the machinery is still there, fully intact, quietly running the same program it always has, whether you're using it for its original purpose or simply standing at a bus stop wondering why you're suddenly so drenched. So the next time the heat hits and your body responds by drenching your shirt in what feels like betrayal, remember what that sweat actually represents. It isn't weakness. It's one of the most sophisticated cooling systems evolution ever built, refined over millions of years for exactly one purpose: keeping you moving, keeping you hunting, keeping you alive, in conditions that would stop almost anything else in its tracks. You step outside on a brutally hot afternoon, and your shirt is soaked through in minutes. Somewhere in that discomfort is the same ancient advantage that once let your ancestors outlast the fastest animals on the savannah simply by being built to never stop.